Good afternoon. On behalf of Tata Steel, Kolkata Literary Meet and Calcutta Cricket and Football Club, we welcome you to a session, Talking Tokyo, Hopes and Predictions at the Most Challenging Olympics Ever. Abhinav Bindra and Rohit Brijnath will be in conversation with Jeet Banerjee. Quick introductions. Abhinav Bindra is a sport shooter who, till date, is India's only individual Olympic gold medalist. His gold in the 10-meter air rifle event at the 2008 Summer Olympics was also India's first Olympic gold medal since 1980. He's the first Indian to have held concurrently the world and Olympic titles for the men's 10-meter air rifle event. With more than 150 medals in his 22-year career, he is the recipient of the Padma Bhushan from the Government of India and is one of the top influencers of sport policy in the country. Our second panelist today is Rohit David Brijnath, a veteran sports journalist. We've grown up reading his writings in Sports World, India Today, and he has written a recurring sports column for the BBC News website since 2004. He currently lives in Singapore, where he writes for the Straits Times. He has a column called Game Theory in Mint. He has co-authored the biography of Abhinavji, titled A Shot at History, My Obsessive Journey to Olympic Gold, published in 2011. The moderator today is Jeet Banerjee, Director, Gameplan Sports Private Limited. Gameplan, the first sports management company in India, is a result of Jeet's lifelong passion for and commitment to the cause of sport. I will not take up any more of your time today. Over to Jeet for the session.
Thank you, Shukarna. Very warm welcome to everybody who've joined in on a Sunday afternoon. Delighted to have with us Abhinav and Rohit. I think the introductions have already been made. I have known them for a long time. One of the most humble sportsmen you can come across is Abhinav. And one of the finest sports writers is Rohit, somebody who I have known for 2 decades and more. This is the Olympics year, albeit in a 5-year gap, 2021. I'll start with my first question. I'll direct to Abhinav. 2021 Olympics after a 5-year gap, postponed for a year, emergency declared in or extended in Tokyo. It's going to be a spectator-less Olympics. What do you think is the relevance of this Olympics in these COVID pandemic times?
Well, good afternoon, everybody. And of course, thank you for that warm introduction. I think the Olympic Games is much more than a sporting competition. I think the Games unite the world in a certain way. The Olympic Village, for example, is perhaps going to be the most unique place on the planet in a week's time. We'll have athletes from about 206 Olympic nations, along with the refugee team, living in harmony, living in peace, yet competing in intense competition. I think what the world has gone through, I think the world really needs a reminder of this unity than ever before. Elite athletes, show us new possibilities along the way. They give shape to our identities, engage us and entertain us. I think sport is a unique window to our world. As we look through it, the world also looks back in at us. Yet it is those elite athletes who continue to play, and not us, not me anymore. They play for themselves, but they also play for us. It is when it's when these two worlds collide, sport has tremendous power. To challenge, to inspire, to change, to heal, to unite, and to create magic. So I think the games will remain quite relevant.
Rohit, quick question for you. I mean, following up on what Abhinav was speaking about, this is going to be an Olympic Games. I mean, you've been to several before. You've seen it all. You've covered a lot. This Olympic Games without spectators, how much do you think it motivates or demotivates an athlete? Because they're not used to. Some of the sports, the disciplines are held in quiet circumstances, surroundings, etc. But imagine a 100-meter final, or the way before a triple jump or a long jump, they keep trying to make the spectators, they do clap and get them going, or a javelin throw, or swimming, or there's so many such events where the crowd matters and all. So this is going to be a change. No spectators, quiet surroundings. What do you think as far as athletes are concerned?
So I don't think that, Abhinav would have minded too much, because shooters don't really mind if there's a little bit of silence or whatever. But yes, I think it's understandable. So I don't want to get into the whether it's good or not. I mean, I understand why Tokyo is doing it, but it definitely dilutes the occasion. So I think there are two things. One is it dilutes the occasion to a great degree, right? Athletes, I think some suffer, some won't. I think the ones who will suffer the most are obviously the Japanese, because home advantage is such a rare thing for Olympic athletes that the Olympics will come around in your time at home. And I was just doing some digging the other day for a piece I was writing. And in 1988 in Seoul, the Spain won 1 gold medal. And 4 years later, when they held it in Barcelona, they won 13. So the jump that you get, of course, they're funding athletes when you have a home Olympics, but the home advantage jump is huge. So I think that's one thing that they're going to suffer from. I think some athletes get intimidated by crowds. So I think they will be actually okay, because it's actually going to feel in some ways like any other meet. And that makes it easy for you. The pressure that an audience brings and the pressure that an occasion brings is not going to be there. And so I think it'll help some athletes. And I think other athletes need it. I think they take energy from it. I think you were talking about the long jumpers, they clap over their heads, waiting to get a certain rhythm. And, I think I think athletes are in some senses show-offs. And I mean that in the nicest sense, in the sense that they are showing off their skill. They're showing it to themselves that I can do this. And they're showing it to their rival that I can do this. And they're also showing it to the audience, saying, look at me. And when there's no audience and there's only somebody far away, watching on a television, it's not the same thing. I think when applause is a type of validation of somebody's skill, you want to feel that applause. I did something fantastic. And that's not going to be there. And I think that is seriously sad. I mean, I was thinking about one thing, that the first thing runners do when they cross the finishing line and they win, whether it could be the 100 meters or the 3,000 meters or whatever, they run to the stands, they get a flag from somebody they know, and they do a victory lap, and they may slap high fives with, spectators, or, and it's a very beautiful moment. That's their little moment, it's not very long. It's not going to be there. What victory lap are you going to do? There's nobody there to do a lap with. So I think it's going to affect, I think it's actually going to affect some performances, but in ways we'll never know. That some athletes will actually underperform and some will maybe overperform. But I also feel deep down that athletes are competitors. They just want to play. And I wrote in a piece actually, which appeared this morning in my paper, that you could put wrestlers in a kindergarten sandpit at midnight somewhere where nobody's watching, and they'll still just go for it. That's what they want to do. They're going for the medal. They're going to show off their skills. So they're still going to do it. It's just that the occasion and the color and the noise and the atmosphere isn't going to be there. So the package is going to be really, really different.
Just on this Olympics being held after a 5-year gap, I wanted to ask Abhinav, since you've been to several Olympics and you've known this kind of 4-year cycle, I believe that in many cases athletes train to kind of peak at a 4-year cycle, the next Olympic Games, whether it's somebody new who's come in and who's targeting that, or an aged athlete who thinks this will be his or her swan song, and this is my last one more shot at it, and you try to peak at a 4-year cycle. Suddenly this one is 5 years. It's an extra year. How does it affect an athlete? Is it easy to overcome that? Do you kind of recalibrate yourself? If you can tell us a bit, since you've been there.
So of course, this has been an extraordinary circumstances that athletes have gone through. But I think what is unique about athletes is their resilience and their ability to adapt. And I think we've seen that adaptability already come through. I mean, a lot of sporting competition has resumed over the course of the last year. And if you see the results, a lot of records already being broken. So I don't think it's going to make much of a difference in performance. I think majority of athletes competing in Tokyo are first-time Olympians. That means they're young athletes, and young athletes mean they're also more flexible in their mindset. I think the biggest challenge lies for the older athletes to perhaps, it is going to be their last games, and to give another year to the games. I think it has been the greatest challenge for that lot of athletes. But for the younger athletes, I think they've been able to adapt. I look at it as a way that they've gotten a year of extra training in. Competition has resumed. I mean, in Olympic sport, we've seen more than 250 world championships and World Cups that have been held in the course of the last year and a half, with over 30,000 athletes competing. So it's not that they've been locked in for the last year as well. They've also been competing, albeit in strange circumstances. But I think from a performance point of view, I think we will see many heroes emerge out of Tokyo. Many superstars will be born. So from a sporting point of view, I think there will be world-class performances. But of course, it's been very challenging for the entire ecosystem involved in sport. I think logistically, it's been a logistical nightmare for even the administration to get their teams to Tokyo. You know, if you read a report of the Fiji or one of the oceanic Olympic teams get on a cargo plane to try and make it to Tokyo. The cargo plane had a full load of fish in it. So I'm assuming there were a lot of swimmers on that plane.
So can I just make a point on that?
Sure.
Not on the fish and the cargo plane, but I think that this extra year is really hard to say what it does for each separate athlete, because I think there's so a lot of athletes, I think one thing you have to understand, and I know this from local athletes in Singapore, right, is people put off employment, they put off studies, they take a break from many things, they put off marriage sometimes. So it was very hard for some of them to actually delay it again, because you're already behind everybody else in normal life. So I think that was one. But I think a lot of athletes found it restful in a strange way, because I think what we don't understand is that people just competing. Your body in today's cycle of sport gets very little time for rest. So I think a lot of athletes, and I think that may be one of the reasons why possibly there may be some really good records, is because athletes are rested and they've also had a little time to do fine tuning, which is sometimes you don't always get time to do if you're going hurtling from one tournament to another tournament. You really don't have time to tune yourself and your game and your technique as much. I mean, it's something that Abhinav would probably answer well. I think Rudranil Sengupta, I think, wrote in the Hindustan Times a piece on this. And I thought that was very good about the rest and why, athletes are breaking more world records. So it could be quite interesting.
Right. I also wanted to bring another point for discussion here at an Olympic level. Two big superstars who featured in the last several Olympic Games. Michael Phelps first appeared in the 2000 Games. Of course, didn't do much probably there, but has been a part of 5 Olympic Games up to 2016. And Usain Bolt, who was there between 8 and 16. Phelps, 23 gold medals, Bolt, 8 gold medals. I mean, every time you had an Olympics for the last 2 decades, you were told about these people and what they might achieve and the expectations. I mean, 2 big superstars in 2, marquee disciplines in the Olympic Games. We're going to have an Olympic Games after a long time without Phelps or Bolt. What are your views? Do you see any new emerging stars, any potential superstars coming, from an interest level in the Olympics? Because a lot of write-up used to happen on these 2 guys and what they might achieve. You've been to probably most of these Olympic Games as well. Abhinav has shared village space with staying with these people. Question to both of you. Rohit, you can go first. And what do you think as far as this Olympics is concerned?
Look, I mean, I'm very lucky because I was there for all the games that Bolt and Phelps did their fantastic things. But I think, firstly, these are two these athletes, I mean, like Phelps' 8 gold medals, I don't know if I'm ever going to see in my lifetime. Of course, I don't have, let's say in next 20 years, I don't think I'll ever see that. Bolt, I don't know, possibly not also. But I think that the thing with sport is that, you know, the past becomes the past and there's always something new and always something brilliant. And I mean, when I was making up my list of things that I'm going to watch in Tokyo, and, you know, I already had Simone Biles, who's been there before, who's brilliant. I have Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price, the sprinter who's won 2 Olympic golds and, you know, would equal Bolt with a third, though it won't be a successive third gold medal. There's, I mean, Eliud Kipchoge, the marathoner. I mean, and Katie Ledecky, the swimmer, who is also won gold, is probably extraordinary. I think also there's a thing that we tend to talk more about male athletes when we talk about female athletes, and I've actually named mostly female athletes, and they're extraordinary. I mean, Katie Ledecky is, I mean, so this year she's in the 200, 400, 800, and 1500 meter freestyle. And I think, you know, if she wins those 4, it will be, I don't think, I mean, nobody's ever done that before. So, I mean, there's a lot to look forward to. And of course, a lot of people that we don't really know that well. I mean, there's a pole vaulter, Armand Duplantis. I mean, I'm going to just go there and sit and just watch this guy because he just does the most amazing stuff. And I don't know, I'm not sure if I'm getting the story right, but I think he had a pole vault pit in his backyard. I don't know really how he had that, but that is an incredibly interesting thing to have in your backyard.
Abhinav, would you like to say anything? I mean, you've seen these athletes.
No, I think, of course, I mean, the Olympics also, you know, in sport, I really believe that yesterday really never counts. I mean, these games will give an opportunity to see for this current generation, to see new superstars being born, and many new stars will come out of these games. So while that was a great era of Bolt and Phelps, you know, like in life in sport as well, all good things have to come to an end, and that era has probably ended, but that means that a new era is going to start. So I think we can look forward to in great anticipation on who the next stars are going to be, who the next heroes are going to be. So I think while the interest on those particular individuals may not be there, I think it does give an opportunity to really look forward to new athletes emerge, which is always very exciting.
So I want to say something else, Jeet. I think one of the fantastic things about Olympic Games is that, you know, usually I think on a day-to-day basis, you know, there's a certain, well, class system in sport. You know, we watch football and, you know, people, you know, go towards tennis or golf, or, you know, sports like this. And I think the great thing about the Olympics, and there are so many great champions out there we don't know. It's only when the Olympics come and you see canoeists and boxers and judokas and, you know, all sorts of athletes which you don't usually see, you actually realize the world is full of the most extraordinary talent, some good shooters as well. But, you know, there are a lot of sports. I mean, surely, I mean, I did not know anything about shooting till I went to the Olympics and started watching shooting. And then, of course, met Abhinav and understood how incredibly difficult it was to stand still, as simple a skill as that. And so I think for me, actually, the joy is I'd rather go and see sports that I don't usually see. Like I never go to the tennis at the Olympics. I would never go to the football, but I would go to the diving and I would go to the gymnastics and I would go to these places where you have extraordinary athletes who are people may not necessarily be able to just recite, you know, just easily because it's not somebody that you see in the headlines all the time.
Yeah, it's coincidental that you just mentioned about football, and that brings me to a question. I mean, you talked about all these a canoeist or maybe a fencer or a shooter, and you realize what incredible talent there is. The Olympics historically have also had, you know, football and basketball, where previously there have been great rivalries, great players, but especially, I mean, you know, I also think that today early morning India time, people have woken up and seen the Copa America final. Tonight is the Euro final. And then you think of the Olympic Games in a few weeks' time from now, where football is going to happen. And you know that the top players are not going to be there. It's basically under 23, and there's some rules. While canoeing and fencing and shooting. This is the biggest platform probably for glory and for recognition and announcing to the world that you're good at what you do. How relevant is, say, disciplines like football today in the context of there are far bigger events which are followed far more by people? You take the example of basketball today. I mean, as we speak, the NBA finals is on. Phoenix Suns. I don't think these guys or the Bucks, these guys are going to be there in the team. Before, you used to have dream teams, Michael Jordan, etc. So in today's context, do you really think these sports are very relevant, if I may put it this way, in the Olympic Games?
Abhi, you want to go first?
Yeah, I think firstly, my personal opinion is that the Olympic Games should attract the best talent out there, and it is the best talent that should be competing, and that is something which I think the Olympic movement has already taken into consideration. If you go through Agenda 2020+5, which is the strategic document of the Games, which clearly states that it is going to be, they have to ensure that the best talent participates in the Olympics, otherwise that sport loses their spot. At the Olympic movement and see what direction it's going in. It's going towards the urbanization of the game. It's really looking at these urban sports which have a huge youthful connect, which is slowly but surely making its way into the games. I mean, we have breakdancing as an Olympic event in Paris already. We have sports climbing already in Tokyo, which are fantastic events. I never watched them. I never thought highly of them, but when I finally got a chance to see them in Argentina, I was absolutely blown away by not just these athletes and what they were doing, but just the youthful appeal of these events and how they were able to bring the whole community together, and also how sustainable these sports are, because it really required very little investment to get these sports going, and it required very little investment to set up the infrastructure required to get these sports going. So I think the Olympic movement what it has done well over the last many decades is that they've always kept evolving. They've always kept changing. And I'm quite sure that we will continue to see this change happen in the future as well. And if certain sports do not attract the best athletes, and if they do not consider the Games, as the top event of the year, or at least that calendar year, then we could see these sports giving way for other youthful sports. And there are tons of sports with huge amount of fan following. It's pretty incredible. So I think there is going to be great evolution in the next few years.
I think it's great. I agree with Abhinav on the part that, we need sports like sport climbing, which is actually terrific to watch. And I think surfing is a really good idea. My issue actually is not with football. My issue is more one with golf and second with tennis. So what Abhinav said at the beginning, which is right, is that the Olympic movement looks odd if it doesn't have the best athletes in the world in it. So obviously that means you need Federer, Nadal, Djokovic in it. You needed at one point golf back because you wanted the greatest athlete in the world, or sportsman, was Tiger Woods. So obviously you want golf back in. But my problem with these two sports specifically is, in these two sports, the gold medal is not the number one thing in their sport. For golf, it's the majors. For tennis, it's the Grand Slams, right? I always like it if the people at the Olympics, for them, the Olympic gold medal is the greatest thing in their sport. So which is why golfers are pulling out of, they pulled out of Rio. They were frightened of mosquitoes. And you can see what I think of golfers. And now tennis, they're pulling out of Tokyo. You won't necessarily have the best golfers. Some guys don't want to go. And similarly with tennis, some people are pulling out. I don't think that's good for a sport. I mean, would a judoka or a weightlifter or a wrestler ever pull out of an Olympic Games? Not going to happen, because for them, it's the most important thing. So those sports, actually, that's something I don't know whether they need to fix. I mean, as I said, those are sports that I just don't go and watch at the Olympics anyway. But I think Abhi is right that I think the Olympics, which I don't think the Olympic movement has always been a great movement, right? A lot of issues with it. But I think they've started to understand that, it's got to deal with young people. And I think that's why the sports climbing has come in and the surfing has come in and the skateboarding has come in, which is good. I mean, you sports have to move, you can't just, you got to have some key sports. You're always going to have track and field and swimming, but you've got to have additional sports which young people play.
Well, just to divert our focus to India and the games, before we talk about India's chances in the various disciplines and all, I just wanted to ask Abhinav, and I know that he's been involved closely, not just from a shooting point of view, but to look at the support, corporate support in India, or how, to improve infrastructure, give better facilities to athletes. This is the centenary year of the first Indian contingent which went to the Olympic Games in 1920, and that was kind of funded by Sir Dorab Tata, who was one of the founders or one of the main architects of the Tata Group in those days. And it's been 100 years that we've had our ups and downs, and I think of late, I get to read or hear, Abhinav will know it better, there have been several kind of corporates who've come in some way or the other. There's been the OGQs, there's been recently Jindals have set up facilities, and I believe do help out in a lot of disciplines with athletes. Where do you see this, Abhinav, since you also trained abroad and you've known the facilities there vis-a-vis India? Is there a lot more required? Are we getting there? Your thoughts?
I think there's been a tremendous improvement in the last few years. I think our Olympic team, which is going to Tokyo, is probably in terms of investment, in terms of dollars spent on at least the group of athletes that's going, is probably going to be the maximum anywhere in the world. I can vouch for that for the shooting team, for example. Not our shooters probably have had the best exposure, the most amount of money spent on them over the last 4 or 5 years. And this money has come a little bit from the corporate world, maybe 1% of it. 99% of it is public money, which the government has spent. And to their credit, I think over the last 4 to 8 years or even longer, there has been a concerted effort to prioritize sport more and more. And I think that is much to do with the young society that we have, the young population that we have, which is much more interested in sport ever historically. I mean, we never had such a young population, and these young people like sport. They like to play sport. They like to watch sport. So it is an important area of priority. In terms of infrastructure, there's been tremendous changes in infrastructure. When I started 20 years ago, I started training under a mango tree. If a shooting athlete now wants to start competing, he or she has the chance to start training in a world-class arena, in an Olympic level arena. That is a huge change, and we must acknowledge that, and we must bring that. We must also talk about that. Of course, there are challenges. There may be certain areas which are not being done well, but let us also look at the positives. I think another area where things have improved is the knowledge available around sport. I think that has also to do with a lot more exposure. I think the internet has made things much more accessible to people around the world. But when I started, there was difficulties in getting world-class coaching or high-level coaching available in India. And I had to pack my bag as a 12-year-old with my mother and go to Germany. Now young athletes, not just in shooting, but other sporting disciplines as well, have the ability to get good level coaching right at the grassroots level. So that is, again, a huge change. What needs to be done is to further continue to strengthen this ecosystem that surrounds the athlete. Investment in elite sport is there. I mean, there's no lack of funding from the government's point of view. The government is spending more than enough money on elite athletes. What we do need to see, more funding infiltrate down to the grassroots levels. And what we really need to see the next, generally in the next 4 or 5 years, more investment being put into the ecosystem that surrounds the athletes. We need to invest more on our coaches. We need to invest more in our support staff, because they are critical elements. They are critical pieces of this machinery to bring and create world-class athletes. So all in all, I think there has been a lot of positivity that has happened in the last decade or so. Yes, there has been corporate support from a few organizations, and I think that can improve. But let us also acknowledge the good work that the various governments have done, not just of course the central government to a great degree, but also at the state level. We see many more state governments now putting more emphasis in sport, and I think when they do something right, we must also acknowledge the good work they're doing. But of course, we can still continue to better it. I think one area of focus should be governance. I think standards of governance can improve, because when we see better standards of governance coming in, we'll see the day-to-day of sport being done more efficiently. And success in sport is really about doing the day-to-day well. So if we can work on those areas as well, I think the next decade in India will be a decade for sport, and I'm quite positive of that.
Yeah. So can I ask Abhinav a question?
Of course.
So I'm just intrigued that I'm sorry we would have spoken about it before, but I've forgotten. Getting old. Is that if you are in this position right now in 2008 or so, before Olympics, maybe 10, 12 days to go before your event, because your event was always the 10-meter air rifle is always, I think, the first event probably of the Olympics, one of the first events. What's happening with you? So you give an idea of what Indian athletes might be going through. So what would happen to you in this last 10, 12 days before an Olympics? I mean, what's happening inside you? What's happening in your mind? What are you trying to do? How do you calm yourself?
I think you're right. I think most athletes will be calm because you're at a point of no return. You can't really do anything anymore at this stage. You're 5 days, a week away from entering the Olympics, and you're training. You can't really do anything. You can't really improve. So it's about fine tuning. I think what I would like to see athletes do is really focus on energy conservation, because they're going to land into Tokyo in a week's time, and there's going to be a complete sensory overload. Because all that goes around in Olympics, and a huge sensory overload even landing at Tokyo's airport, because it's going to take a long time to just get out of the damn airport, because you land, you have a COVID test first, then you go through immigration, and if you're unlucky or lucky enough to be a shooter, you have 2 hours of customs. Then you get out, then you try and catch a bus to the Olympic Village, then you get your accreditation validated at the Olympic Village, and by the time you get to your room, maybe 7 or 8 hours after landing into Tokyo. So there's a sensory overload coming up. Where what happens when there's a sensory overload? Cognitively, you are going to decline. Your cognitive skills and your cognitive ability is going to be challenged. And how can you compensate for that? Is to really work on your energy. Do little things. Hydrate yourself, carry snacks in your backpack. So little things really matter. But of course, there would be excitement, but I think really focused on the task in hand, and trying to stay in the moment, but also trying to stay smart, because an Olympics also brings in a lot of unexpected things. What you've not perhaps planned for, which also requires a great amount of flexibility in mindset. You need to just learn to be open-minded and ready to adapt to various challenges and various situations which you may have not foreseen. I remember going to the London Olympics, and my bus broke down while going from Heathrow to the Olympic or to the village. My journey took 4 hours. I mean, you could whine about it and you could be irritated about it, which would deplete your energies more. But if you take it lightly, if you take it as a joke, if you remain flexible, if you remain open-minded, 4 hours pass. And Olympics is all about this adaptability. So have your batteries full. There are going to be tremendous challenges, and just have the ability to find your space, find your little cocoon, even in this Olympic village, which is bustling with all the energy. Maybe not this time around with restrictions, but you have to find a way to for that, you have to deprive your senses a little bit to find that energy and find that focus again. So these are the little things what I would tell athletes to do, and perhaps what I did in my experience. But it's going to be a ride. It's going to be a roller coaster. Roller coasters are always more fun.
Right. I mean, talking a little more of the Indian contingent, Abhinav, I mean, obviously you'll be more clued in on shooting, but one believes this time that we have chances in several disciplines. A lot of the athletes have trained really well, and we are well poised to do well there. What are your thoughts on the shooters, and are you really you're hopeful that we're going to have a very good Olympics this time?
Jeet, we need to be a little bit more energetic and positive about it. You almost sound apologetic that we have such good chances going into these games. I mean, I am so hopeful. I think we are on the cusp of a historic games. I mean, when did we ever have a shooting team which had 15 members and 8 of them are world number ones and world number twos? I mean, even if they 50% of them perform to their ability, that means 4 gold medals. I mean, let's be positive. Let's celebrate the fact that we have so many good athletes going into the games with a realistic shot at winning. And that shows, of course, it talks a great deal about the hard work that our athletes have put in and the good work that has been put in over the whole cycle. So I feel that we are on the cusp of a historic games. I do believe we will have our best ever Olympic performance. I do believe we will win a few gold medals, and I really hope that happens. But I think what is great to see is that we have so many sports where we have athletes of a good level, of a world-class level entering into the Olympic arena. It's not just shooting. I mean, you have your wrestlers, you have boxers, you have other sports which are making breakthroughs. It's the first time a woman is fencing at the Olympic Games. It's the first time a woman sailor is competing at the Olympic Games. These are great things which we must acknowledge and celebrate. All of them will not win, but we have enough already to be really proud of them, even before Tokyo starts. So I am really looking forward to it, and I really hope everyone is as enthused as I am. I wasn't as positive as an athlete, but now that I'm just a fan, I'm very hopeful and very positive.
That's a good point you made about fencing and the other sports, and the 2 swimmers who've gained direct entry into the Olympics, which I think is also quite an achievement for India. Talking about there's one athlete. You've probably you know her well, Mary Koms, 2012 bronze medal. I mean, going for it in 2020 again. Probably the most revered name in women's boxing in India. Rohit, what are your thoughts on Mary Koms' chances?
Actually, I don't follow Indian sport well enough to say that. But I mean, of course, she is a riveting story. I was very lucky, actually, even though I was still working for the Straits Times at that time. I met her at one of the Asian Games, and she's a character. I mean, you need. I like characters. I think I even look at Abhinav, who is of course far more eloquent now than he was as a shooter and spoke like he shot in monosyllables. But she's a character. I like that.
I was conserving my energy, Rohit. I was just conserving my energy.
He was okay. Yeah. We will buy that. And no, I love athletes who endure. Who just keep going. Who it's really hard. I think one of the hardest things, and I think Abhinav realized that himself when he won gold, is that then, to restart, the next campaign. Of course, for him, he'd been to the peak, he'd been to Everest, and then, you have to start again. So it's really hard. And I like the fact that she keeps going. There's got to be something there in an athlete who just does this, like I admire anybody who keeps going and who can find that, who can get disappointed. I don't like to use the word fail, who just can get disappointed and then, come back and then start again and do it. And I think one of the things I really like doing, and I've always done, I think throughout my life as a sports writer, even when I was in India and Olympic and Asian Games teams were getting ready, I used to go to watch them prepare. And I think one of the best things in the world is to go and watch an athlete practice. It can be actually excruciatingly boring in a way because it's just repetition. It's just doing the same thing again, but very specifically and as perfectly as you can. But I think it's only in the practice arena that you really realize the investment that athletes make. You know, how early swimmers get up and, you know, their parents will just get up as well and make them lunch and then drop them to the pool. And you just do lap after lap after lap with just, you know, a lonely black line at the bottom and, you know, a shooter, I guess, Abhinav, I've seen him practice and, you know, just going on, being very specific, doing every shot with the same exact routine. And it's not easy. I think it's hard, you know, to be that specific, you know, to actually do your 250 sit-ups and not do 249 sit-ups. And so when I look at somebody like Mary Kom, I'm thinking of these things because I'm thinking, my God, this woman is just doing it again and again and again because she's trying to strive for a best self and for a certain kind of excellence. And that is a very beautiful thing.
So you're talking about just watching these athletes train. I completely agree. One of the great days I had was once I visited Lela Gopichand's academy and I saw the Indian contingent practicing there. I mean, just hitting, going through their drills, and then you realize what they go through, and you know it's not just walking into the court and trying to go for glory. So yeah, I mean that really was quite an eye opener for me. You know, no, we're talking of Olympics. Cricket is trying to get into Olympics. Nothing in India, no discussion is complete without cricket. But you know, there's an interesting thing that's happening. I mean, while they're trying to push cricket into the Olympics, and they've now found out, and the ICC had a small meeting in the recent past, where they figured out that two of the Olympic Games will clash with the new cycle of world events that the ICC does, which is the T20 World Cup, which they think is the most popular one. So they're now trying to push T10 as a format in the Olympics. Problem is the Olympics recognizes that format of a game which you need to play it at international level for some time and not a completely different format. One doesn't know whether T10 is now going to be pushed in at the international level just to get into the Olympics, or will they stop the Olympic movement, cricket in the Olympic movement, because it's, you know, the commercials will clash with the World Cup. You made a point, Rohit, about that it has to be the highest, you know, your problem with golf and tennis. So, you know, one doesn't know what's going to happen with cricket. I don't know if you had any thoughts on that or you read about it.
I say God save us all. And I would not like to see T10 cricket to begin with. I definitely would not like to see it at the Olympics, but that's just me. But I'll ask, Abhinav might have a view on that.
I think cricket will make it to the games. I think as early as perhaps, you know, Brisbane is probably going to be 2032. It's just as we validated at the IOC session in Tokyo, which means Australia will have the ability to pick five sports of their choices. And I think, you know, given the popularity of cricket in that region, I think it very well could make it to the games in 2032, if not earlier. And of course, the commercial interest driving the entry into the games. I mean, just put your subcontinent together and you have a viewership of more than a couple of billion people just following the sport. So I think commercially, from a commercial point of view, it does make sense. The entry into the games, I think it has a very, I think getting them in for Brisbane seems most likely. I mean, it could happen even in LA, but Brisbane seems to be the more likely situation.
Right. One last question from me before we take some questions that have been coming in from the audience. You know, we hear of talk of the cost of hosting an Olympic Games. You know, there was talk in Brazil that the country almost went bankrupt, but your you're hosting Olympic Games, spending millions or billions of dollars on new facilities. Euro has shown that, you've kind of had a shared Euro across several countries. Do you see this as a viable alternative for the Olympics, where you, instead of, it's always been a city-centric, so it's Tokyo or London or whatever, but where you might have in the future Olympic Games shared across even countries, nations, different disciplines, to reduce the cost, to make it more viable?
Me?
Yeah. I mean, both of you can.
Well, I think the heart of this strategic planning of the Olympic movement is the Agenda 2020+5, where you already see that sustainability is at the heart and center of the entire thinking, and at the heart and center of whatever they're doing. I mean, these challenges that you've listed are well known, and I think the IOC is very well aware aware of these challenges, and we already see a lot of flexibility already coming in for future hosts. I mean, for example, you do not require anymore to have any new venues at the Olympic City, and temporary venues are being actually encouraged to reduce costs, and also from a legacy point of view, you do not want these white elephants to be rotting just a week after the games. I think sport can take place outside the host city is already available. I think you're already seeing that in Japan, and I think that is going to be further promoted in the next games. And I think right from the candidature stage, I think what is really going to be important is how these cities really showcase the sustainability angle of the games, not just creating a legacy for the city, but also the economic sustainability of and the plan for these cities. So I think there will be a lot of changes going forward. I think we all recognize the challenges. Having said that, the next 3 Olympic hosts are already in the pocket. So there still seems to be interest, while there are skeptics, that the world cannot see these games. But we continue to see a lot of countries remain very interested, because I think also, I think one interesting fact is how Paris is doing games, and how they're bringing the whole social element into the games, and the whole social business angle into the whole Paris 2024 project is very, very unique. So it is really about upliftment of society. So it is about giving small businesses the opportunity to be involved in the whole process of hosting these games, which I think is the way to go. They prefer not the larger corporations to award contracts of even procurement. They want to give small businesses in France contracts. So I think that societal benefit from an economic standpoint is already coming into force in Paris 2024. And I think that will be the way ahead. And if we are able to see more hosts, if we are able to really incorporate the social business element into the whole hosting of the games, then I think we're on the right track.
Would you like to add something?
No, that's fine. I think I think he said most of it. I mean, the Olympics are too expensive. They are ridiculous. I mean, and they are building, all these stadiums are being built, and, then nobody ever uses them. And I don't know if they will be shared by countries, but whether they will be, by 2 separate countries, whether within a country, as he says, I think some of the smaller events like sailing, and I think even the marathon this time, I don't think is in Tokyo. I'm not sure. Yeah, all right. So it's not in Tokyo because of the heat, I think. And so it's happening. So I think maybe that might happen, that some of the events might shift to other cities more and more. It's possible. I don't know, but I think cities are also trying to get something out of the Olympics, whether they would agree to that. So, but basically the Olympics is just too expensive. That is something that I think Abhinav knows, because he's part of some of these meetings, that I think that there's something that they're really, really conscious of, and it's becoming difficult. I don't think the Olympics should ever be a sort of event where it is something which cannot be held in certain parts of the world. Then it's a problem. If this is a world event, it shouldn't be that it's only in Europe and, parts of America or maybe Australia, and that, other sort of continents are going to have a problem, or other countries just cannot afford it. It's got to be something, I think, which is affordable. If you want to spread sport, and that's what the Olympics is supposed to do, then it should be a little bit more modest, I think.
That's why the Youth Olympics is such a lovely event.
Exactly. The Youth Olympics is actually one of the most brilliant things that they've ever done. And one of the things I like the most, because I find that nationalism of the Olympics sometimes a little difficult to stomach, is that you have mixed teams, right, Abhinav, in the Youth Olympics, which is really nice. So you have teams with people from different countries in the same team. And that, I think, is really the way to go.
Right. A few questions have started coming in, and I'll start. The first one is for Rohit from Biswajit Das. Chess is a candidate to be a part of the Olympics in Paris 2024. Why do you think chess hasn't been included in the Olympics till now?
Actually, I have no idea. I think there's just certain sports which, have been a bit unlucky, in my opinion, in getting in. I mean, the people that I feel for the most actually are the squash people. I mean, how squash and why squash has never made it to the Olympics is, I think, one of the saddest things possible, because I don't see how squash is a lesser game than many of the other sports that I see, if you want to look at it that way. But chess, actually, I'm not sure. I mean, sorry?
I said the other racket sports are all there. Badminton, table tennis, so
true,
why not squash?
True, yeah. And maybe chess, like the old story that it didn't really have an athletic element per se, which of course some people will accuse shooters of, but having seen Abhinav at work, I would not say that. And so I don't know, it's a tough one to answer. I cannot say. I mean, people, chess is part of this old argument about, is it a sport or is it a pastime, and I sort of think it's a sport, but, some people don't. And I think, maybe they haven't lobbied enough. I don't know. I actually cannot give you a sufficient
If I may
answer.
add to that, I think one of the reasons was, chess has always had its own Olympiad. You have something called a chess Olympiad.
Exactly. Yeah.
And India was joint winners last year with Russia. So perhaps that may have deterred the chess's entry into the main Olympic
And maybe
games.
it had its own world championship, which they thought was very precious and they didn't want to ruin it. There are many reasons why they may not want it in the Olympics.
Right.
Have they even applied?
Sorry?
Have they even applied?
Actually, good question. I'm not sure. I remember hearing
because definitely not for Paris. They're not in the event's already clear for Paris. We already know what's going to happen in Paris.
In fact, Rishi Anand said something quite interesting. He said, chess is probably the only sport that can apply to both the Summer or the Winter Olympics.
Okay.
Well, question for Abhinav from Pijush. Says, Abhinav, talk us through the feeling on the podium when you won the gold. Apparently, you were the only Indian who was not in tears. And he's also asked whether Rohit was there, which I think he was.
No,
Rohit wasn't there, and
I wasn't there.
Yeah, for me, it's I'm an individual who finds it hard to cry, and so crying was definitely not a possibility. But I felt obviously happy. I felt a lot of relief. I think the sense of relief was something which I really felt. I felt proud. I think the high, the Olympic winning high, probably remained till the end of the victory ceremony, and then of course the crash came. But till then, I think it was the moment of my life. It was the thrill of my life. From 17 years or 16 years until that day, I would go to bed every night thinking of getting on top of the top step of this Olympic podium, and that one day, that moment did arrive, and of course it was a great relief. It was a thrill. It was fun.
I was working for the Straits Times then, so he was not part of my stories to write. So I wasn't there in 2008. Though of course, the news filtered in. Maybe Sharda Ogra, who told me, messaged me to tell me that he had won gold, and I knew him a little bit. I mean, well enough, but we weren't great friends or anything like that. But I did go and see him not in London. In London, yes, I think yes, in London. I can't remember. But Rio for sure. I covered his event where he came forth by a very tiny and painful margin. Yes.
Well, we don't have any more questions, so that brings us to the end of this very enthralling session. I shall definitely remain more positive, as Abhinav has told me to, and hope that this is going to be our best medal haul ever. Good luck to the Indian contingent, and we all wait for the Olympics to start. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for your time. And all the best to all of us who were rooting for India.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.